Thank you so much for doing this. You own Aurora's Apothecary, which means a lot of things. So I was wondering you could tell me a little bit about how you kind of developed this brand and this idea and the growth that you've seen over the last many years.
That could take this whole time.
Yeah.
Well, I started when I was 14. I got into plants, and my grandpa used to take me through the woods and show me what everything was. And then my grandmother on my other side, she was a gardener, whereas my parents were not gardeners.
Okay.
So I kind of got both aspects, like the wild gathering and the gardening, starting at a young age.
Sure.
And then when I was 17, I started college, and I went to Northland College in Ashland.
Oh, sure.
And luckily, they're very much an outdoor education.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to really study close-up botany and identification, and tree identification and all that.
Sure.
And then I moved to the big city of Green Bay after that. I'm from Shawano.
Okay.
And there was an herb shop right down the street. So I was there bugging her all the time. And then she introduced me to the herb club, which was Herbs in Time. And then I realized there were other ladies out there that liked herbs just as much as me. They were all 60 years old and I was 19.
Sure.
But after that, I had worked, I was working full time. Sometimes I was working 3 jobs and was trying to take care of a garden that I was building at my house. And I finally got fired from my job. And I was on unemployment for a little while, and that gave me some time to really focus on getting the garden where it should be and starting to make things out of the garden. And I started making just things for friends and family. And then I moved out to Morrison, and I looked at so many different properties, but I found this big old general store with kind of a little chunk of land back there, and it was all grass, so I had to start all over with my garden, because my garden was an English cottage garden.
Okay.
So it was full on, from the house to the street, all garden, all plants. And then, so I started over with my garden, because I think 3 of my plants made it for the transplant.
Sure.
And then I also joined Fox Valley Herb Society at that time.
Okay.
And then I became the president, and I'm the current president, so I've been president for over 10 years.
Okay.
And then when I got my place in Morrison, it is an old general store.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is going to be the herb shop. And it was beautiful. It's 1905 stone building.
Sure.
And so I had Aurora's Apothecary starting out there. And how I got my name is when I moved to Green Bay, I was with a group of friends, and there were 3 Melissas in the group.
Okay.
So we all chose different names. So I've been going by Aurora ever since.
I figured it wasn't your favorite healthcare system or Borealis or whatever. But good stuff.
And so I had my herb shop out there, and it was very cute, but it was out in Morrison, and no one knows where Morrison is. So no one was coming out there to get herbs. So I started realizing that I had to start bringing my product to the people. And I started with the Wrightstown Farmers Market. And that's where I got a good blast of reality, because these people with a clipboard came by and they like, I don't know who you are, you're not on our list. And I was like, oh, well, who are you? It was the health department.
Okay. Okay.
And then I realized that, okay, I can make all these fun things, even though I had a lab in my area, it was not like certified.
Right.
So that's when I realized that, okay, there's lots of regulations and things that need to happen. So I got on the up and up with all of that. And then because then I was certified with the health department, then I was able to get into the Broadway Farmers Market. And I did the Broadway Farmers Market for like 10 years. And I built a customer base. I was from Green Bay, so I had a lot of customers from Green Bay that knew who I was. They wanted to use my product. And I had known that I, wanted something bigger. I'm a very boisterous person, so I wanted to be well known for sure. And I think I like to strive in anything that I do. I want to be the best. And so I did that for a while. We did many. So I met my husband while I lived there, and he joined in the business with me. I think he thought I was crazy at first. I'm like, okay, I heal people with plants, and he was like, oh, okay. But he became a believer, and then he would come to the markets with me, and he would listen to what I was saying to customers. And at first, and when we do a farmer's market, we're very busy.
Oh yeah.
And when you're selling herbs, it's not like selling apples. You can't someone's not just going to buy it. They have lots of questions.
Okay.
So he would keep them busy with small talk. And when they were serious about buying something or had questions, he'd send them to me. And then he would get to learn everything about our products. And we traveled all over the Midwest doing Renaissance fairs and anything we could do to get our product out there.
Sure.
And then he was a truck driver, and he said if I really wanted to make a business out of this, I needed to quit my job. So that was nice. He let me quit my job, and I was able to focus all my time on the herbal business. And then we decided that Greenleaf Morrison was not the place to be with an herb shop, so we needed to get to a big city. And then we took a small business class, and that was the first time that we did any kind of business, any official learning with the business. We were just flying by the seat of our pants until then. And so we took the business class, and in there they said, well, know your competition. And I wanted to open up in Green Bay. That's where all my people were. That's where people wanted my products. And when we were doing this, there were like 13 different herb or nutrition shops in Green Bay. Like, oh, the market's really saturated. But Appleton had 3. So we opened up in Appleton. And that's our big store. And then after that, we had been doing the Renaissance Fair in Door County. And we knew we loved Door County. It was beautiful out there. And that's a good place to open a business. But it's hard to get up there because either there's nothing open or it's very expensive. But luckily a friend of ours had a store that he went and got a new store. He said, hey, my store's open, do you want it? So that kind of fell in our lap. So we opened the Fish Creek store 4 years ago.
And that's seasonal.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then last year, we were kind of looking for a place in Green Bay. We looked all over, and Green Bay's a little iffy with east or west side. So we decided, we're like, okay, maybe downtown, maybe then more people will come. And the store in Green Bay just kind of, we knew the girl who had the upper part of the store. And she's like, you should really rent down below. And I thought, oh, it's kind of small. But when we got in here, the space was beautiful. And a spot for everything. And so now we've been open in Green Bay for over a year and a half about.
Sure. Now, starting in COVID, how did that, did that impact things one way or another?
It did. When COVID first started, before everyone started taking the precautions, people just knew that they were getting sick, to start upping your immune system. So that was actually a huge boost for us at that time. People were getting all sorts of our natural remedies. And
just chugging the elderberry.
Yeah, chugging the elderberry.
Yeah.
And then when they shut us down for being non-essential. So then we had customers, we make medicines. People need these things for their daily health. So we were dropping things off on people's porches and meeting them in parks and trying to get people what they needed.
Sure.
And then, so we shut down our retail businesses and did a little bit more online, but we still had workers that were, had to provide for their families. So we just kept paying our workers even though we weren't open. And then I think a lot of our customers are very health conscious, so they knew that they needed the herbs to keep their health up during the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in looking at your store, obviously, my focus is plant wellness, but you have a whole host of all sorts of other sorts of things. With the herbs, do you still personally or have the farm that produces some of those herbs, or do you? Okay.
We do, yeah. So I think we grow over 100 different herbs on our farm, and our farm is small. People always ask, how big is your farm? They think it's huge. We're growing on about a quarter to half acre right now. The nice thing about herbs is they're cut and come again, so you just keep harvesting all year, all summer.
And they really, I mean, if I can grow herbs, anyone can. Yeah, I mean, they don't require a lot of attention. Obviously, because of their inherent chemical properties, they don't have a lot of predators and
Right. Yeah.
except cats, I guess, for cats. But,
People ask if our stuff is organic, and
Right.
I'm like, of course, because like, yeah, you don't need pesticides, you don't need herbicides, and actually a lot of the weeds that grow, we use in our medicinal. So
Sure.
I let them
Right.
grow. If they're in the way, I just move them.
Sure.
So we grow a lot of our own plants, and then I do forage a lot also.
Okay.
And then we make over 350 products. And for a while, it was just me.
Okay.
And then whoever would volunteer to come out and help me. But now I have a crew of 3 that work out there for me, 3 to 4. So I have a lab manager now.
Okay.
So when I can't be there, like today, she would be out there helping.
So that's, I mean, obviously you've got sort of the larger jars that you can, just dry. But what sorts of other processing do you do with the herbs to kind of make them ready for sale? And yeah, we'll start with that and we'll go from there.
So we do dry a lot of our herbs, and then like our elderberries will freeze, so we have dried and frozen. But then we will make a lot of them into stuff right away. So sometimes I make tinctures with fresh herbs, and sometimes I make them dried.
Sure.
Some of our salves I do fresh, and some I do dried also.
Okay. And so a tincture, for the non-professional, that would be an oil-based or alcohol-based.
Alcohol-based.
Alcohol-based, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a tincture, you always want a certain percentage of alcohol and a certain percentage of water, because some of those chemical constituents in the plant are soluble in water and some are soluble in alcohol.
Got it.
So you want both.
Okay.
And then we let those sit for 6 weeks minimum, sometimes 6 months.
Do you do any encapsulation or anything like that, or do you get those from other sources?
I don't sell any pills or capsules here.
Okay.
Mostly because I can't swallow the pills myself, which is why I got into herbal medicine in the first place. I couldn't take Western medicine, so I was like, okay, I have to find a different method.
Sure.
So,
I'm glad your store name is what it is, because maybe like a difficult pill to swallow would be appropriate, but maybe not.
that's fun. I like that.
Not everyone loves the pun names, and it's your business and life. So yeah. Anyway, good. So do any of your tinctures or salves get sold elsewhere other than the 3 stores then?
So we have our stores, we have online, and then we were selling wholesale in a wholesale warehouse down south. So then other stores were able to buy them and put them out.
Okay.
I'll check it. There's a place down, I think she's in Stockbridge. And she sells our stuff. She's a friend of ours, and she has her own store. They're mostly a furniture store, but then they've got some fun stuff.
Nice.
So we do sell wholesale though. So if anyone is interested, they can always sell it.
Sure. Do most of your patrons, do most of your customers come in saying that they have a specific thing, or do they just sort of like unload on you and be like, I'm a complete mess, I'm depressed, I'm not sleeping, etc.? How do you tease all that apart? So start with someone who has just a specific.
Well, when we're here at our Green Bay store, Green Bay people are just, they're wandering in off the street. They have no idea what they're coming into. So they have lots of questions.
Sure.
But at our Appleton store, people are definitely coming to the herb shop. They know they need something. So, and we have disclaimers all over that say we're not a doctor.
Right.
But we try to take the herbal knowledge that we have and apply it to what's going on with them, which is hard in our day and age because people are on so many pharmaceutical medications. And there's so many interactions with herbs. So if they tell me that they're on a lot of different things, then I kind of back off. I'm like, well, these are the things I would suggest.
Sure.
But after that, check with your doctor kind of thing.
Sure. Obviously, the immediate warnings, just looking through a couple of, pregnant, nursing, children, those are definite sort of, okay, let's, let's be complimentary about this, if you will. So, excellent. Okay. do you, but if someone's, obviously talking with your doctor is an important thing. How do you kind of coordinate that with what you have to offer and with online, hoping that all of the things that they research are good,
So I do try to, I do make a suggestion of what I think would help with their symptoms or their disease. And then I usually have them take a picture of my ingredients, and they can take that and they can try to look them up online.
Mm-hmm.
Online is a huge thing now. Back when I was learning herbs, we had
sure.
books and
Yeah.
there was no computers.
Right.
So it's even hard for me to get used to it, knowing that all this knowledge is right at our fingertips.
Sure.
But I do have the customer do the research based on what they're going through and what our ingredients are in the product.
Okay, sounds real good. So then for the person that has, let's say, multiple symptoms or multiple issues, how, do you try to find like an initial thing to work on, or can you be more holistic about it?
It depends on what's wrong with them. So I do make a lot of products that are kind of grab and go.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in Wisconsin, so everyone is sick all the time. They all have colds and flus. So I make a pretty big cold and flu line that's
Right.
kind of self-explanatory.
Right.
And then also I realize that just people are in pain all the time, whether we're working hard or you have autoimmune disease. So I make quite a few different things for pain, be it topical or internal.
Sure.
And then after that, we have to address what's really going on with them. Diet and rest are huge in our society. We're so fast paced and we eat terribly. So that's your diet is all the nutrition that's coming into your body, and that's how your body deals with everything. And herbs are just a supplement on top of that.
Sure.
So I do have a couple things that are like for general health that will kind of address, like adaptogens are great, help the body adapt to whatever's going on. Other than that, I'll look at like what system is going on with them and see how it correlates to all their problems.
Sure. Are there, just circling back to the safety, are there any like things that sort of everyone knows, like don't mix this and this, because you have over the counter, you have prescription, and now you have supplements. How do you help those individuals with that? Or
There's a few like rules that we have that all the people that work for me, like St. John's wort is a great herb, and it does so much for the body, but it has not so good interactions with a lot of antidepressants and like birth control.
Okay.
So that's one of our cautionary ones. So I will always ask, are you on any medications? If not, then I will, suggest the St. John's. But if so, then we try to go with something else.
Sure.
So.
And in terms of the regulations, obviously that was a rude awakening, I guess. You're just trying to sell some herbs,
Yep.
How has that shifted at all in your time as a proprietor of herb shops? Have things gotten more stringent? Have you had to fill in more paperwork? That sort of thing. There's obviously through the last couple decades more and more attention to it, and of course there is both the FDA and other government agencies that are kind of involved. So how does that interaction happen?
So we were first licensed by the county, by Brown County.
Sure.
And it depends on which year, because they went through inspectors quite fast. So some I got along with great, and we chit chat and they'd sign their name. Others would come in and they'd specifically be looking at stuff. They were pretty strict. And it really is kind of a matter of money. When I first started out, I couldn't have had all the stainless steel that you need and extra plumbing and all these different things. But as we were going, I was able to focus on those things that I needed for the lab.
Sure.
Then once we crossed borders and we started selling out of a few different counties, then the state got involved.
Okay.
And so now we are state certified. But we got state certified during COVID, and it was very weird. They weren't sending people into like the labs or wherever they wanted to inspect. So we did get an inspector, and she came in and she gave us a list because the state is different than the county with their restrictions and their rules. And so we have a few extra things that we needed to do.
Sure.
And we did them all. She gave us a year, and now she hasn't been back to check on us. But everything's done.
Sure. So, I mean, are there any crossing borders, like if you're selling products to, say, someone in Illinois who just really wants your tinctures?
Well, now the FDA has found us.
Yeah.
So they came in this last year, and you know, I had the lab sparkling clean, and I was all ready for them, and they didn't care anything about that. That I guess they'd leave that up to the state.
Sure.
But what they were concerned about was if I was making any claims on my labels,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Sure.
Because as good as herbs are and that they can help, I cannot say that they will help this, or this.
Right.
So.
In terms of, in terms of, obviously, the things you're growing are organic. Do you have to put any through testing for like remnant pesticides? You know, your neighbor has a lot of stuff sort of flying over or anything like that.
I don't so far.
Okay.
I would guess that would be an FDA thing, but they have not
Sure.
said anything.
Okay.
Testing, when you send a product out to be tested, it costs quite a bit.
Yeah.
And she said, I guess if we were bigger, she would probably want all of our things sent out, each batch to be tested.
Right.
And when you make 350 different products, it's a lot of testing. But so I'm not a certified organic. I know I looked into it early on in my career, and it's quite a bit of paperwork and time and all this stuff. And but people will come in and they'll ask if my products are organic, and I'm like, yes, of course they're organic because we're putting them in our body. And with herbs, you're right. Yeah, they don't need any of the herbicides or pesticides or anything.
When you're making tinctures and other things, how do you plant A and plant B? You just sort of assume that they all have the same amount of chemicals that you're interested in, or how does that?
That actually, most people don't realize it, but that will change even throughout the season. It changes, the chemical composition of the plant will change depending on if it's in the sun or shade, if it's in this soil or that soil, and what time of the year it is. So being that we make products all year long and harvest at different times, I would say if I did bring, like my migraine tincture, if I brought it in for testing one time and then the next batch, it could be possibly different.
Okay. Have you ever thought about doing a greenhouse to do year round, or you're like, this is enough plants, I've got enough?
We were looking for more land. We are at the borders with
Sure.
what we have going on. And so this last year we really pursued looking at different land or getting a bigger lab. And we were partnering this year with a gal that she's pretty close to us, a couple miles away. She's got 5 acres and 5 greenhouses. And she has agreed to grow for us, and she's certified organic. And we did get a little greenhouse this year. It's not heated or anything, but it will, usually I'll get all my spring plants in, or I plant seeds.
Right.
And then we're just busting at the seams with all these little plants. So now I've got the greenhouse that can kind of go in until I can get into the stores for sale or into the garden.
Anything else you'd like my plant wellness and natural wellness students to know? And when it comes to the business of herb and the being able to help people with it?
Well, I would like to say that there's a lot of home herbalists out there, and right now I think that a lot of them are flying under the radar, and they're making things in their kitchen and stuff, and then selling them at farmers markets. But there's regulations out there for a reason, so people aren't making things in their bathroom and then selling them to the public. So I would say try to get on the up and up with all the regulations as possible, and it's not a quick thing.
Sure.
We've been doing this for over 15 years, and So I run the lab, and my husband runs the stores and the business and the financial part of it. If I had to do it all myself, I probably wouldn't have any hair left. So,
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you, Eric.
Yeah.